Um, so, what can you tell me about the, I don't know, the login? And you have some new features,
Yeah,
right?
we actually we announced a new feature here at Nuremberg at SPS, is that on top of our own identity pool using Amazon Cognito, for our enterprise customers now we integrate SSO with Active Directory. So this was a big request from our customers, from our enterprise customers, and we're happy now to provide them with that.
Cool. And what's the procedure here? How can I integrate SSO into my account then?
So it's we just work with our customers that will send us their information, their SSO information from their Active Directory, and we're happy to integrate it.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
But meanwhile, so let me just log in, the normal login with our own identity provider. And yeah, so here we are in our account with all our PLCs and the projects. We're here.
And you logged in. It means just with that user, you have access to all the assets and all the controls in the console, or how does that work?
Well, of course not. So yeah, so first of all, let me state the obvious. Each customer can only see the data, their own data, right? So without going too much into the details, just to let you know, everything in the platform is API oriented, and each API needs to be signed with a token, which is provided by the identity provider.
Okay.
And that token basically contains the tenant or the user ID, right? And any resource you try to access through the platform needs to match against that tenant ID. Otherwise, of course, access is refused. So we make sure that actually you can only see your own resources. And getting back to your question, now I'm logged in. Yeah, so I'm logged in as the administrator, I would say, of this account.
Okay. And you mentioned the API is protected by the token. That means there is an API, obviously, right?
Yeah, of course.
But can I also use this the backend with my own UI, for example?
Yes, of course. Everything, as I said, is API oriented, and you can basically anything you do by clicking here in the console, you can automate using different languages. Personally, I use Python, but you can use whatever you like to automate. Yeah.
Cool. And can you show me a little bit, because you mentioned, okay, you can also onboard other users, how that works?
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, if you're a customer, you have the first user that creates the account, which is the admin, but then you would like to have your internal users, right? So we have a very fine-grained user management system. So, for example, we have all these users. So some of them are admin, right? Because you want to have co-admins. But for regular users, so we have very fine-grained permissions. Let me take this example. So previously we have heard a lot from people saying that if you needed to give access temporary to a user, internal or a third party, right?
Yep.
To do some maintenance, to do something, it was always a problem because you had to give them maybe the PLC password. The whole shop floor normally had the same PLC password, so you had to think about maybe changing the password afterwards or not, and always the temporary authorizations ended up people forgetting about them. So so what we can do here is that let's say that this user now needs to have edit and connect access to this PLC that it doesn't have now.
Yeah.
To do something, to do a job. Okay, so we can go here and give this extra permission here, and not to forget reverting back. We can also make it time-based. It means that we can say this new authorization we give this user is only available until, let's say, tomorrow, 7 a.m. Because we believe at that time it should be done, right? So it's a shoot and forget thing.
Yeah.
So even if you forget to remove it, you don't even have to think about it. At 7 a.m. tomorrow, it will just revert back. And by the way, we don't have to give away any password because that's the layer of abstraction that we built. So we connect to the PLCs through Secret Manager. So we don't even need to give the user the password of the PLCs.
Cool. That's great, actually, especially for maintenance workers or so.
Yes, exactly. And so this was really for the user management, but I think there are other security features that I would like to talk about. Things that you wouldn't think about security features, but that enhance your security posture. So as you know, we have a feature called ID as a service. It means that automation engineers, normally if they want to work on a project, they need to have, so let's take the example of Siemens. So for Siemens, you need to have TIA Portal, which is ID, installed normally on your laptop to open the code and work with it, right? The problem with that is that, of course, your laptop, you'll be using it for many other things.
Yeah.
Maybe going also on the web, browsing. It's, well, you know what happens. So it's not immune to viruses, malware, or anything that is you don't want to have it on your laptop. So, and if you go with that laptop that's been who knows where and plug it into the network of your OT, so that's always a little bit of a risk, right? So with ID as a service, which I can show here, basically we can stream through a browser IDE, so in this case Chia portal. So you can tell me, so what's the difference between having it here? So apart from it being much more practical, right, and you don't have to install it and you have all the different versions, these are built on golden images, which we call AMIs, Amazon Machine Images. Okay. It means that each session that you launch, it started anew. It's as if you were installing a brand new Windows machine.
Totally running in the browser,
yeah.
Right?
So,
cool. But that would mean also I could even open this in, on my iPad or so, on any tablet, with a usual browser, right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And even the connectivity is
so
there, and you're already online, right?
Yeah, I'm online with the PLC, so I can just, now the code that I change, I can just go ahead and push it if I want. And again, I think the important thing to understand is that when I close this session, basically the whole virtual machine is gone, is dead.
Okay.
It means it doesn't even, so first of all, it doesn't even have access to internet to be infected, more or less. But even so, I mean, after the session is over, the next session, it starts brand new from an image that cannot be infected by any malicious code.
Cool. So I don't have to be afraid that my data is leaked to any other customer or whatever.
Yeah.
So you can
exactly.
ensure that.
And of course, the last thing I wanted to talk about, so we touched on it. You said so you can go and deploy on, so we saw it's connected, right? So
yeah.
What about the connectivity? So you can ask me how do we do that and is it secure? So we built our own connectivity layer or feature, as you call it, and we want it to be as secure as possible. Of course, at the end of the day, if you want to be able from the cloud to go and deploy on the PLC, you need to have connectivity.
Yeah.
So we thought, how could we make that as minimum as possible, reduce the risk as possible? In a nutshell, what happens is, of course, your PLCs are in an OT network, so they're not on the internet. What we need is to have a gateway that will have access to the internet. So in our case, in this demo, we're using a Raspberry Pi, but in the real world, you have an industrial PC that will act as a gateway. And all we need to install is just a small piece of software from our side here, kind of agent, and which is basically just the VPN client. And I think I emphasize this. We're not installing a VPN server here, like we see some people do to create connectivity. The problem with having a server here is that the server is also a vector for attacks. Mm-hmm. And also having a long-lived permanent VPN tunnel is also a risk. So what we envisioned was to say, okay, we only install a VPN client here. Mm-hmm. And it's only when you need a connection, for example, when you click on deploy, we will send an MQTT message to here to say, please open a temporary VPN tunnel to this IP address, which is a VPN server that we manage, and on port 443. It will create a tunnel only for 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever it's needed to make the deployment. And after that, the tunnel is automatically destroyed.
Okay. And what about talking about firewalls in the companies, right? In the company network?
Yeah.
Probably I have to open then any firewall ports or...
No, so we had some customers who were working with this. The fact that the MQTTs, as I told you, when you make a request, we will send an MQTT message with some parameters inside, such as the endpoint IP address of our, and also the port. So basically, you can dynamically configure on the fly your firewall to allow the outbound, and it's only outbound to that server.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so I think this is a pretty. I mean, if you need connectivity, it's as secure as it can get, I would say.
Yes, definitely, yeah.